What's up, YouTube? Timmy's here. Now, since April, came and gone, lots of interesting movies I just saw in the month of April. So here are my official April 2025 movie ranking, where, I talk about my least favorite to my favorite films I saw in April. And I pretty much saw about 35 movies in April, so that's an interesting record. Alright, coming in at number 35 is the worst movie I saw this month, and that is Snakes. Which is like, let's say, Toy Story and Secret Life of Pets, but with Snickers instead of, toys and animals and all. Snakes is awful. Of course you had like about this, this one kind of shoe, whose sister is stolen by this collector, and he goes out to, try and, find her and stuff like that, and try, obviously get back to, to his owner. You had some decent voice talents. You had the likes of, Anthony Mackie, Chloe Bailey, Chris Parr, Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, the list goes on and on. Martin Lawrence. Some good voice talents, but even they wasn't good enough to save this movie. It's just really plain terrible. It's not so funny. There was sometimes I did chuckle, but that's it really all. I mean, it's just not a good one. Like I said in my review for this, it's like, let's say, the food fight of the 2020s. That's what this really is. Remember Food Fight, how bad that was? This is pretty much upscale's Food Fight, so, yeah. Alright, number 34 is another film I thought was terrible, and that is Gunslingers. Starring Nicolas Cage. He pretty much gave a Wicker Man level performance in this more than a Pig level performance. It's just not so good. It is a Western film. One of the most wanted men in America surfaces in a small Kentucky town. His violent history and bloodthirsty mob seeking vengeance and King's ransom soon falls here. It's just not a great one. The performance by Nicolas Cage was bad. You had Heather Graham. You also had Stephen Dorff. You had some decent supporting players here, but the movie is just not so good. It's completely boring. Nothing about it was all that interesting. It's, probably one of the worst Western movies I've seen in recent years. Alright. Sure. Coming in at number 33, I'm going with G20. Now, this is, of course, the, action movie with, Viola Davis as the President of the United States, whose G20 summit is overtaken by, attackers, and so she must, pretty much bring, her, statecraft and military experiences to defend her family and fellow leaders. I wanted to like this because I like Viola Davis, I like Anthony Anderson. You also had, Homelander himself, Anthony Starr. You had some cool cast members in this, but nothing about was all that fascinating. The action, the action was okay, but other than that, it just wasn't all that great. Viola Davis really, I hate to say it because she's one of the greatest, but she's sort of deformed in here. It's not a good one. I hate to say it because Viola Davis is one of the greats, but not every good actor, a lot of good actors always have a bad day in the office, and this one definitely was Davis's. Alright, number 32 is Mob Cops. I do love I do love the mafia genre, whether you talk about The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino. Who doesn't love the mafia genre, right? This one, it just didn't do anything for me. It's a really terrible one. You had David Arquette. It is about, if you guys don't know much about the story for this, it is about, this former cop, who, this is a retired NYPD detective who writes a book about his family's ties to the mob here, and, try to bring them to justice. It's just not so good. It's completely, there are some funny moments in that, but on that, it's so terrible. Terrible performances by Arquette, who I love Arquette, but even he wasn't good enough to say this. I mean, not every mafia movies turns you go, Gotti with John Travolta, or maybe the recent Robert De Niro one we just had, Alto Nights. this one is definitely in the top tier worst mafia movies of all time. So, yeah. All right. Number 31 is Home Sweet Home Rebirth. Now, Minecraft and The Last of Us was not the only video game adaptations that premiered this month. Another one was Home Sweet Home Rebirth. Of course, this is where like a city is overrun with a possessed crowd, and the cop must find the source of the evil to save his family. You had William Moseley from Chronicles of Narnia fame. You had some cool cast members in this, but it was not so good. Probably one of the worst video game adaptations in recent years. Probably even worse than Borderlands. I kid you not. Like, it's not all that scary. It's completely boring. Terrible performances, terrible dialogue. I'm like, yeah, it's just not a good one at all. Alright, number 30 is 825 Forest Road. I wanted to like this one too, because Shudder do put out some cool stuff. This is from the same people who gave us the Hell House movies. I didn't care for it much. It's just really boring, to be honest here. I mean, the Hell House movies are far better, in my opinion. But yeah, I did not care much for the characters. Like, the performances wasn't that good. It's a shame too, because I do like the director, but maybe the next Hell House movie will be better. But who knows? All right. Coming in at number 29 is Shiver Me Timbers. That's right, the third Popeye slasher. I would say this is probably the better one out of the bunch, I admit. It's still not so great. I mean, I don't mind some of these, like, slasher type films, but, based on, childhood properties. But only if it's done right. This one wasn't done right. The acting and performances wasn't so good, the dialogue, script, and all. I actually think the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies are far better than this, in my opinion, but that's just me. Alright, number 28 is one I was really disappointed by, and that is Until Dawn. Of course, it was directed by David Sandberg. I like the cast involved. I never played the game, so I can't really comment on that. But Until Dawn just didn't really do it for me. The performances, they were okay, but I did not care much for the characters at all. The only best part about this are actually the kills. I really did quite like the kills, but that's really all to go by here. It's just not a good one. Maybe if they do a second one, maybe it'll be better, but we'll see. Alright, number 27 is Dead Male. Now, this is another Shudder original that I decided to check out. I was actually interested in this because, I do like some Shudder exclusives, but this just wasn't all that good. It is about like this help note finds its way to the 1980s post office, connecting a dead letter investigator to a kidnapped keyboard technician. Like, it was really boring, to be honest. It was like this script dialogue didn't do anything for me. Didn't care much for the direction. The performances wasn't as good. Probably one of my least favorite film on Shudder. So. Number 26 is Winter, Summer, Spring, or Fall. I can't say I recommend this one at all. Of course, got Jenna Ortega, who I do like Jenna Ortega. She was actually probably the redeeming quality of this, in my opinion. She actually gave some decent performances. But if you guys don't know much about the story, it's where like these two different teenagers meet the chance in winter of their senior year. They spend 4 days together over the course of a year that will change their lives forever. You also had the other actor from Wednesday, Percy Hines White, Marisol Nichols from Riverdale fame. But it was just like really cheesy, very predictable. Didn't really do much for me. I mean, I do like Jenna Ortega, and she's always good, but this really wasn't the best. Like, it's not as bad as, let's say, Miller's Girl. Remember that Miller's Girl movie she did last year? But it's still pretty disappointing. Number 25 is another disappointing film, and that is The Amateur. I wanted to like The Amateur because you got Rami Malek, sounded pretty fun. It was actually pretty boring, to be honest. I did not really care much for the action. Like, there was some pretty cool kills that he did in this, but, like, the pool scene, that was probably my favorite part, to be honest. But other than that, it's just still not so good. Did not care much for the characters involved. A very forgettable villain. I just didn't care for it much. Number 24 is Psychotherapy. I just thought this was okay. Of course, you had like Steve Buscemi, John Magaro. I mean, if you guys don't know much about Psychotherapy, it's more like this staging writer who is in the midst of divorce, befriends a retired serial killer who becomes his like marriage counselor and killing counselor for his next book here. And it's a very interesting little story. Like John Magaro and the girl from Severance, Britt Lauer, were both pretty good in this. Good performance. Like Steve Buscemi was creepy in this one. I mean, I thought it was an interesting little film, to say the least. All right, number 23 is The Assessment. Technically, The Assessment came out in March, but I didn't really start until this month, so I decided it didn't really start VOD in March, so I'll include it. Of course, this is where like the climate change ravage and this utopia society includes like parenthood assessment, where like a couple faces surgery by an evaluator over like 7 days here. You had Elizabeth Olsen, Alicia Vikander. I thought it was an interesting little film. They were both pretty good. Um, the guy from Yesterday, Himesh Patel, was pretty good in this. Really decent little film, worth giving a go. Oh, you also had Minnie Driver, was also good. All right, number 22 is the movie Ash. Not to be confused with anything from Pokemon. But of course, this is the sci-fi horror movie with directed by Flying Lotus, starring Isaac Gonzalez, Aaron Parr. I thought it was a really decent little horror sci-fi film, worth giving a go. Again, this was actually technically released in theaters back in March, but I didn't really saw it until April, so I'm including it in this list. But it's still a really decent one, worth giving a go. Great performances by Isaac Gonzalez, by Aaron Parr. The effects, like the visual digital effects, was pretty creepy. Really good little film if you guys haven't seen that. All right, number 21 is Neighborhood Watch. Starring Jack Quaid, Jeffrey D. Morgan. Of course, you have this mentally ill man played by Jack Quaid, who thinks he witnessed an abduction, and the police refuse to believe him. So he decides to turn to his next door neighbor, this retired security guard, to help him find the missing woman. And you also had like a Watchmen reunion with Morgan and Mullen Ackerman. I really thought it was a really fun little like dark comedy. The chemistry between Jack Quaid and Jeffrey D. Morgan was pretty good. I mean, obviously this isn't as good as, let's say, Companion or Novocaine, because those are actually two of my favorite films of this year so far. But it was still pretty decent watch, worth giving a go. All right, number 20 is Pets. Of course, this is a documentary on Disney Plus. Pretty much about people and their pets, like the bonds between human and pets. It is really cute, charming. I do love animals. I do like the cat storyline. Like there was a really fun little storyline between the man and his cat. That was pretty nice. Bryce Dallas Howard was like directed this. She did a good job. I thought it was a really decent documentary. Like it's not a nature documentary or anything like that, but it is a movie about how people do love their pets and pretty much like a full hour cats video if you think of it, but really decent flick there. Number 19 is another Disney documentary, and that is Sea Lions of the Galapagos. Now, of course, this is follows Leo, who's this sea lion who's who's learning how to navigate life alongside his mother Luna, and it's actually narrated by Brendan Fraser. This is from Disney Nature. It is really cute. It is charming. I always love these Disney Nature documentaries. They always put out some pretty good ones, and this one really was terrific. I've seen sea lions before one time, and they're really nice, like really nice, smart creatures and all. And this really showcased like sea lions in their habitats, and it's a really decent one, worth giving a go. All right, number 18 is Bullet Train Explosion. Now, of course, this is a sequel to the 1970s Korean movie of the same name. Obviously, this has nothing to do with the movie Bullet Train. Brad Pitt. This is actually a Korean film from the director of Shin Godzilla. When like panic erupts at a Tokyo-bound bullet train that will explode if it like slows below 100 kilometer, and it is a lot of fun. It's really entertaining. Really quite like some of the interesting characters. It's a really decent one, worth giving a go. All right. Number 17 is Eric LaRue. Now, of course, this stars Judy Greer, who plays like this mother, whose whose son is in jail for her, for a school shooting, and she's trying to like pretty much trying to see solace in her faith despite her pastor's pleas to heal her wounds here. Judy Greer, who I feel like you don't really see her lead a film Holly as much. I always keep forgetting how good Judy Greer is, man. She is excellent in this. Like, I don't know if she should get an Oscar nomination, but maybe an Independent Spirit Award nomination. I'll say at least. She really played her part well. Directed by Michael Shannon. Alexander Skarsgård was good in this. It is really heartfelt. Really sad throughout. It's a really decent one, worth giving a go. All right, number 16 is The Wedding Banquet. Now, of course, this is a remake of an Ang Lee film from the 90s. Starring Lily Gladstone, Kelly Marie Tran, Bowen Yang was great in this. It's a really nice, funny little, charming comedy. Great performances by Kelly Marie Tran, by Bowen Yang. Of course, this is where like this phobic boyfriend Chris, and running out running out of time. Min of course makes a proposal, a green card marriage to hit with their friend Angela in exchange for their partner's expensive IVF alum here, and it is really good. Really charming. Great performances by Bowen Yang, by Kelly Marie Tran. The actress from Minari who won her Oscar, Yun, I forgot her full name, but she was pretty good in this. It's a really decent one, worth giving a go. All right, number 15 is Not Just a Goof. Now, this is a documentary about a Goofy movie, and I adored it. Of course, Goofy movie does turn 30 this year, or it just celebrates their 30th anniversary. I love a Goofy movie, and seeing like a documentary about like the makings and behind the scenes, and it was almost not even made. Like, I kid you not, like they actually wanted Steve Martin for Goofy instead of a professional voice actor like Bill Farmer, which I love Steve Martin, but I cannot see Steve Martin like as Goofy. Like Bill Farmer crushed it big time, So yeah, of course you had interviews by the director, not James Marsden, Jason Marsden. It's a really decent one, worth giving a go. All right, number 14 is King of Kings. Of course, this is the Charles Dickens story about about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and stuff, and it's of course where like Charles Dickens tells his son Walter the greatest story ever told, and you had Oscar Isaac voicing Jesus. Of course, you had like Kenneth Branagh, Uma Thurman. It's a really nice, charming film, from Angel Studios. Great performances, like voice performances, great animation. More better than having intentions being here, so I'll say give that one a go if you guys have seen that. Alright. Coming in at number... Try to get it? Alright. Number 13 is Havoc. The Tom Hardy movie from the director of The Raid. It's a lot of fun. Great action. Tom Hardy was really good. Forrest Whitaker was good in this. The violence really leads up pretty well here. It obviously is from the director of The Raid, so you expect really good violence and really decent for one, worth giving a go. Alright, number 12 is Magazine Dreams. Now, of course, this is a new Jonathan Majors film. Of course, about a former bodybuilder who struggles to find human connection here. And Jonathan Majors, let me just say it right now. If it wasn't for like just Jonathan Majors' controversy at Aura, I'm telling you right now, Jonathan Majors would have got an Oscar nomination for this. He was literally that good in this one. Haley Bennett, Taylor Page was good, but Jonathan Majors, it's such a shame that, I hate to say it, it's such a shame he had to screw up his own career like that. Like, he was just so excellent here. He really plays his part well. There are some intense moments throughout. Probably the best performance Jonathan Majors has put out, in my opinion. Even better, not gonna lie, he gave a better performance in this than he did in Creed 2. And obviously he's better in this than he was as Kang. I mean, he's just, if you guys have watched Magazine Dreams, give it a go. Great performances by Major. Alright, number 11 is Hell of a Summer. Now, of course, this is the one co-directed by Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brock, I think his name is. Of course, about a killer who kills people, who slay people at a camp. And the movie is a lot of fun. It's really hilarious. Finn Wolfhard was good in this. The one who from White Lotus, Fred Hetchinger, I think his name is, he was really good here. Really decent film, worth giving a go. Like, really gives you the Friday the 13th feel to it. It is an entertaining one. Alright, here is my official top 10 favorite movies I saw in April. Number 10 is Freaky Tales. I actually just saw this this past week. Freaky Tales is a lot of fun. Penn Pascal, Dominique Dawn, aka Ironheart, Ben Mendelsohn, of course, the late Angus Cloud. It really feels like, let's say, the Warriors of this generation in a weird way. Even though the movie does not take place in modern times. But, Freaky Tales is still pretty fun. Fun action. It is pretty violent at times. From the directors of the Captain Marvel. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, you can find it on VOD. Do yourself a favor. Give it a go. It's a really good one. Alright, number 9 is The Shrouds. Of course, directed by David Cronenberg, starring Vincent Cassel. Of course, he plays this businessman who invents this technology that enables him to, that enables the living to monitor their departed in the shrouds. And of course, you had Diane Kruger. You had a few other really cool people like Guy Pearce. It is a really decent one, worth giving a go. Not David Cronenberg's best work, but it's still pretty decent. Good performances by Cassel, by Kruger. Really decent flick, worth giving a go. Alright, number 8 is a Minecraft movie. Now, of course, a Minecraft movie is, based on the, very popular video game. Probably a little better than it had any intention of being. It definitely had some fun aspects to it. It was pretty entertaining. I mean, it was dumb at times, yes, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, and I'll actually be down to see a sequel. Hopefully, maybe the sequel will be better. Who knows? Alright, number 7 is Warfare. Of course, the, war movie, co-directed by Alex Garland. I thought this was excellent. It was really intense. It's really those films that you can probably just watch once and that's it. Great performances by the cast. Really, really makes you feel like you were actually there, to be honest. It's just, it is an intense one, but it is worth giving a go. Alright, number 6 is Sacramento. Of course, the directorial debut by Micah Gerano, starring, Micah along with Micah Cera, Kristen Stewart, where, of course, the free spirit Ricky, played by Gerano, suddenly reappears and follows to be Glenn's life, and they embark on a road trip from LA to Sacramento. Maya Erskine was good in this. It was a really decent, fun little comedy. Great performances by the two Michaels. I mean, give it a go if you guys haven't seen that one. Alright, number 5 is The Accountant 2. The Accountant 2 was a really far better than the first film, in my opinion. Great performances by Ben Affleck, John Bernthal. The action and this was pretty cool. It was pretty entertaining at times. A really decent sequel. Definitely excited for a third one whenever they make that. Alright, number 4 is Bob Trevino Likes It. Now, Bob Trevino Likes It, starring John Leguizamo, Barbie Fiora, from Euphoria fame, was a really decent little, heartfelt, charming little comedy. Where, of course, Barbie's character, pretty much, befriends this online stranger who appears, who pretty much shares, her, cell phone the same name, and the new Bob Trevino supports, could transform her life here. It is actually based on a true story. Great performances by John Leguizamo, French Stewart, Bobby Ferreira. Really, this is a film worth giving a go. All right, coming in at number two. Oh, number three. My bad. Number three is The Luckiest Man in America. Of course, this is the story about the guy who pretty much won big on press your luck, and there was like pretty much like a chain pretty much like a chain scanner here, and people try to uncover his real motivations, stuff like that. Paul Walter Hauser was great in this. Walter Goggins, Maisie Williams, these are great performances. Paul Walter Hauser really nailed his part perfectly. It is a really terrific one, worth giving a go. If you guys haven't seen it, I say give it a go. Number two is Drop. Of course, starring Megan Faye. Of course, as this woman who goes on a date with this mysterious man played by Brendan Skelenar. And of course, she ends up beginning on Chikara as she becomes terrorized by these anonymous drops on her phone. And the whole movie takes place in pretty much one night and one location. It's a really fun one. Crazy twists and turns. Megan Faye was great. Probably one of Blumhouse's best work in recent years. It's a really terrific one. Really entertaining. Really puts you on the edge of your seat. It is a really entertaining one. Worth giving a go. And the best movie of April is none other than Sinners. Sinners is excellent. I thought it was really fun. Michael B. Jordan was great. Ryan Coogler, what he was able to do with this was terrific. Of course, it's becoming one of the most pretty much a big hit. It did pretty well for a second week. It's most likely going to do well once the year's over. It's a really terrific one. If you guys haven't seen Sinners, it's in theaters. Give it a go. It's a really good one. But that's pretty much it there. Now here is, of course, my quick rundown. 35 Sneaks, 34 Gunslingers, 33 G20, 32 Mob Cops, 31 Home Sweet Home Rebirth, 30 H25 Forest Road, 29 Shiver Me Timbers, 28 Until Dawn, 27 Dead Male, 26 Winter, Spring, Summer, or Fall, 25 The Amateur, 24 Psychotherapy, 23 The Assessment, 22 Ash, 21 Neighborhood Watch, 20 Pets, 19 Sea Lions, 18 Bullet Train Explosion, 17 Eric LaRue, 16 The Wedding Banquet, 15 Not Just a Goof, 14 The King of Kings, 13 Havoc, 12 Magazine Dreams, 11 Hell of a Summer, 10 Freaky Tales, 9 The Shrouds, 8 Minecraft, 7 Warfare, almost said Warcraft, 6 Sacramento, 5 The Accountant 2, 4 Bob Trevino Likes It, 3 The Luckiest Man in America, 2 Drop, and number 1 is Sinners. Let me let you guys, what were some of your favorite and some of your least favorite movies you saw in the month of April? Did you like Minecraft? Yeah, Minecraft. Did you like Sinners? What some other films you just saw? What's so good you saw in April? Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Timmy Signer.